Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 3, playing End of a New Beginning, which is a fantastic mod for Hearts of Iron 4. If you didn't see the first 2 episodes, you can click in a link that'll take you back in the description below. Just be aware that the first few minutes of the first episode had a little bit of audio issues, but about minute 7, everything got kind of taken care of. We have finished the American Civil War. It is February 1863. Abraham Lincoln survived an assassination attempt. And now we are going to rebuild the country. We are into the Reconstruction era, and we're going to see what we can do to build this country the right way, deal with some of the issues that were never really dealt with properly during our historic Reconstruction era. And then from there, the sky's the limit. Whatever we want to do next. Do we want to have something to do with the Indian territories? There actually is something we can do to take the Utah territory, I believe. I think that might actually be in one of these as well. I'm not sure where exactly it is. But I think, right here, there's something we can do to eventually take Utah. So I don't know how that'll all go, but that's something for the future. Right now, we're just trying to rebuild our country. So what I'm doing right now is I'm looking at the resistance strength in the South, and you can see that it's strongest in Virginia and Arkansas, but not too bad anywhere else. But we're going to go ahead and set up garrison duty for a couple of my units here, so we can kind of deal effectively with these resistances that are going on. Now I'm looking at my Senate, and you can see that it's primarily made up of traditional conservatives. There's a lot we can do with the points that we have to start making some changes to the United States. We've got stagnation and growth law. We're going to go ahead and use an executive order to encourage growth, start growing the economy. We've got economic mobilization right now. We're in a civilian economy, obviously, because we're not at war. We could improve research funding, though I don't know that that's necessarily something I need to do right now. But we are eventually going to deal with suffrage. Right now, it's universal male suffrage. What else can we look at right now? Work hours. We've got a 12-hour workday right now. And I'm curious to know, if we make the changes, what will happen there. We can't do anything at the moment, though. So we've completed Reconstruction era, and now we have choices to make. Obviously, we're going to choose victorious Reconstruction, which will take 35 days. Beyond that, we start to get decisions like persecute Confederates. We can have the Oklahoma issue, which I'm not entirely sure what that is, and then occupy the South. That goes to black wages instituting. So a lot of this has to do with helping to deal with the conquered South and how we go about bringing them back. We've also got things like the 13th Amendment, which abolishes slavery. So we haven't actually done that yet. So I think we'll probably do that first. All right, let's look at freedom of assembly, because right now it doesn't really exist. I mean, well, it kind of exists, but non-socialist is the freedom of assembly that we have. We're going to actually go ahead and switch that to free assembly. Which obviously could be of concern if we end up with political parties we don't want, but we're going to go ahead and use executive order to make that change. I've got so many points in legislative power that I can do that with executive orders without very much trouble. All right, 13th Amendment, and this is going to give me a bonus to legislative power gain, monthly population, recruitable population factor, consumer goods factories, and stability. Stability I need right now more than anything else. We have 70% legitimacy, only 47% national stability, and our political stability is a real problem, because when it's -3, a radical ideology within our country will start to gain traction. So combine that with the fact that I just allowed for free assembly of any kind, and we might have some interesting things happen on the horizon here. I'm going to keep working on naval research, because we are going to need a navy when we get ourselves closer to the 1900s. Okay, we've passed the 13th Amendment, which outlaws slavery in the United States, and now we have a couple of things we want to do. I want to look at reforms, but first I want to go ahead and look at what we're going to do next. The 14th Amendment gives equal protection under the law. That's going to give me some more stability and legislative power. It also grants American citizenship to anyone born in the U.S. or if their parents are a citizen. All right. I want to actually look at immigration laws. I'm trying to find where those are. Or border laws. Here we go. So we're not quite there yet. Oh, okay. So if I'm not an authority, so I'm losing this political stability because I'm using these executive orders. I hadn't realized that's what was happening, but now I know. So we've got to be much more careful. That's what's been killing my stability. And I don't know how we get it back except to give it time. There's the 14th Amendment. And now we've got a bunch of available options in our Parliament tab here. And I want to look and see what using these will do for me. Is there any way to... All right, as you expect this... no, we don't want to do that. I'm trying to find a way to build my political stability. So these things just kind of change the direction of various areas of government. So I don't think that's really anything I want to do right now. We've got our national stability up to 51%. I got to find ways to change the political stability. But I'm not sure what that would be. Let's pass the 15th Amendment, which is going to give black males the right to vote. The Open Border Act of 1863 was a complete failure, so that's not going to happen. Oh, well, nothing I can do about that. I'm not going to use an executive order this time around. We passed the 15th Amendment. Black Americans now have the right to vote, at least males. So we've kind of filled up that area as much as we can. Now we have to go down this path. And I'm looking at the options that we've got. And I'm not really sure which way I want to go. But I think we're going to go ahead and persecute Confederates and go that route. After confirmed reports of Jefferson Davis came to light that he was in the harbor of Tampa, Florida, it was too late to catch him. He, as well as several other Confederate leaders, were able to flee from the Union's grasp, but it is now expected that he will flee to foreign governments in an attempt to create a Confederate government in exile. We must keep a close eye out and pursue him, for he could still be captured and returned back to the States. So we lose one Reconstruction point. I still don't know exactly what the Reconstruction points do. Maybe somebody who knows the game better than I do can explain that to me. Okay, here we go. Let's see what Confederate persecution does. Confederate leaders have gone into hiding with a large population of Southerners who would be glad to help hide them, as well as the fact that they could have fled the country by now, poses us with a question of how far we should go to persecute these Confederate leaders. We need to be on the lookout for them, put all of our resources into this. We'll come across them eventually, right? All resources. There's only 25 legislative power, and we've got plenty of it. Next, we're going to seize plantations. This was actually something that was supposed to have been done. They were going to seize plantations as part of making sure that in the rebuilt South that newly freed African Americans didn't just have to go out on their own, but they actually had a means by which to take care of their own families and to provide. Unfortunately, with Andrew Jackson in office, a lot of that didn't happen. And Jefferson Davis captured. Many of the former slaves ended up going back and working on the very plantations where they'd been slaves. They ended up working for their former owners and had to sign these contracts that they weren't allowed to get out of for basically next to nothing. Honestly, a lot of these former slaves in the defeated South after the war ended up going back to slavery in all but name. They weren't called slaves anymore, but for all intents and purposes, that's what they were. They were in contracts they couldn't get out of. They were working the same thing they had done before, basically for food and shelter and nothing else, and working insane hours. So basically there was still a de facto slavery of system in the South, or system of slavery in the South. What to do with Jefferson Davis? We have him. Be gentle, be harsh, be balanced. So, decisions. I'm going to go be balanced. I still don't know. I wish I knew what these Reconstruction points were for. I'm going to try to look that up and see if I can figure it out. All right, we've seized plantations. A major reason for the idea of black inferiority is that they have been toiling as fodder in the cotton fields of the South since the colonial period. We can seize cotton farms in the South that were supportive of the Confederacy, but it may cause the South to become upset. So, let's see, gain 2 Reconstruction points, seize some. Let's seize them all. Do it. All right, beyond that now, we're going to force an oath of loyalty. And then we can actually start with the rebuilding of individual states. I've been doing some research, can't seem to find anything about what exactly Reconstruction points do. I don't know if you need to have a certain number to complete some of these tasks down here, or how all of that works. The Kingdom of Prussia has declared war on Denmark, so that's interesting news to keep an eye on. So we've got some fighting going on in Europe now. The election of 1864, we can choose between Abraham Lincoln and George H. Pendleton of the Democratic Party. The centrism party will now be called the Republican Party. Traditional conservative party will now be called the Democrat Party. Interesting. I think we'll stick with Abraham Lincoln for now. We're almost back on track. We've now got our political stability to -2, so at least it's a little better than it was. Okay, oath of loyalty. In order to rejoin the Union, a state must have their government hold an oath of loyalty to the Union. However, much of the state government needs to provide for this oath is disputed. How much? Radicals demand that over 50% of the state must pledge loyalty to the Union to be readmitted, while the Southern Democrats request only 5%. Wow. I think we'll go with the 25% plan. That gives us a little bump down in national stability, but we're still at 59%. So that's not too bad. So where are we at now? We are all the way up here. And we can't start readmitting until we complete all of these other options as well. Didn't realize we had to do quite so many things with Reconstruction, but it makes sense. It's a pretty involved process. Okay, here's Occupy the South. With trouble of occupying the South, the people in the South have begun to complain about the status of their occupation. Base stability 5%. Except moderate demands. We're going to lose 3 Reconstruction points. I don't even see where the Reconstruction points are being kept track of. I don't see that anywhere. So maybe that just hasn't been fully fleshed out yet. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something completely that I should be seeing. But where are we now? We can go to black wages, Oklahoma issue. Honestly, I think we're going to kind of go back and forth with Reconstruction, but also start looking at some foreign diplomacy. Okay, and what we're going to do here is we're going to go European diplomacy, because that's going to open up for us the option to send an envoy to Russia and then purchase Alaska from the Russians, which the United States did in, I believe, 1867. They called it Seward's Folly at the time. William Seward was the... you can see here, continue Seward's icebox. Seward was the Secretary of State at the time, and he's the one that kind of made that purchase happen. Everybody thought it was a bad idea at the time. Turned out to be one of the best ideas we've ever had. All right, we've completed envoy to Russia, and now we're on to purchase of Alaska. So 35 days away. We're going to do that 3 years ahead of time. I've been looking at possible expansion opportunities, Mexico being one. We aren't in a position to do anything about it. We can't justify a war goal until world tension gets to 7%. Right now, it's at 6%. So we might be able to change that if we can change our war support level. So let's take a look and see if that's a possibility with our decisions. Now we have an option for stabilizing the nation too. Let's go ahead and do that. Well, we have nothing for building up war support at the moment, but that might happen later. Okay, here we go. Purchase of Alaska. Send an offer. Let's see what happens. The Maritime Treaty That brings Canada closer to unification. I believe that also happened in the 1860s. Russia have consulted with themselves and have agreed to the purchase of Alaska. It seems like their need for money and their fear of British invasion has tipped them into making an agreement. Awesome. Alaska is now ours. Very cool. Just added a significant amount of territory. Didn't do a lot for population or anything like that, but let's take a look at what else we can do in terms of European diplomacy. Continuation of Seward's icebox. I wonder if we can go after Greenland and Iceland. Is that what's happening here? That would be very cool if we could, but I think we're going to go for now back to Reconstruction. Keep that going. All right, 1864, St. Petersburg World Fair. Russian Empire invites us to the World Fair. Yeah, you know what, we'll join. And I proposed the Harris Treaty with Japan. So today, the Consul General Townsend Harris of the United States of America signed a groundbreaking new treaty with the representatives of the once reclusive Empire of Japan, officially concluding the first real commercial treaty between the world power and the Japanese Isles. So that's cool. That's going to give me some legislative power and increase my opinion with Japan. The Suez Canal has opened. Meanwhile, let's see what's happening for us. Nothing else. We're still working on black wages. We're a couple of days away from that. And then we're going to get respond to resistance after that. That's going to help with stability. The situation in the U.S. seems to have finally stabilized. So I got another little notification that Abraham Lincoln gave a speech, and that bumped me up to -1 political stability. So we're slowly but surely stabilizing the political situation here in the United States. We are working on responding to resistance, which is going to give me another 5% stability. That's going to give me up to 74% national stability. So we're stabilizing the country. That's good news. We keep earning more Reconstruction points, but I still don't know what in the world they do or how that all works. All right, so I want to take a look real quick at research because I'm looking in the ship's research, and one of the cool features about this mod when it comes to ship research is that it's not just as simple as saying, okay, we've researched these, now let's go after early ironclad hull. And you can see it's not available, and there's a reason for that. Because down below this are further technologies that sometimes need to be researched first, such as armament. Propulsion is another one. The steam engine right here, high-speed steam engine, steam-driven single-screw propeller, which is what I need right now. Mines and torpedoes are another. So we need to research that before we can research further technologies in terms of the naval technology. All right, so we need to do all of these before we can start doing the rebuild section and then do the readmission part of this. And I don't know what readmission does exactly. It gives me a core back on those territories that were formerly a part of the Confederacy. So we'll go a little further with this, and then I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode because it's a short episode, but I have some questions I'm hoping some of you can answer, which is basically, what are those Reconstruction points about? What do they do for me? And if I do start looking to expand, where do you think I should go first? Should we expand into Canada? Should we deal with these Native American areas here? Should we go after Mexico? Should we go after the Caribbean? Let me know your thoughts about all of those things. Use the comment section below. We're going to try to do this every other day as long as I can with this series. You seem to really be enjoying it, so we're going to keep it going. Thanks for watching.